Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, the offensive coordinator hire that Shane Beamer's about to make. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. This could cost Shane Beamer his job or turn 2025 into just a blip on the radar and allow Shane Beamer to keep building at South Carolina. But anyway, you cut it. It is a monster decision for Shane Beamer to make. You get the feeling that he needs to hit on this offensive coordinator hire. Now, we've talked about plenty of names. Gus Malzahn was the very early leader in the clubhouse for me. Like what he's done at Florida State, turning around that offense in one offseason. I really like Gus Malzahn. I know Bobby Petrino is not as popular of a candidate amongst South Carolina fans. I personally really do like Bobby Petrino, and I know there's a lot of concern with Bobby Petrino and the baggage that he might bring. Look, I don't think we have the luxury of caring about baggage. We have to care about a coordinator, a coach that can come in and put points up on the board in 2026. And Bobby Petrino, throughout his career, whatever conference he's been in, whatever team he's been at, whatever quarterback he's worked with, Bobby Petrino knows how to put up points. I thought Cade Bell at Pitt, a really, really enticing option as well to me. And we got, I guess, some breaking news on a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon here. I think there's a new leader in the clubhouse, the way I look at it. That is Utah offensive coordinator Jason Beck. This one makes sense for so many reasons. Now, there's a whole lot of pros, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the pros. There are certainly some question marks here with Jason Beck as well, of which we will get into. But, man, when you look at the overarching boxes that we want to see get checked. Number one, the quarterback position. Like, what's it going to look like for South Carolina in 2026? I think Jason Beck will answer those questions. We'll get into that. You talk about immediate turnaround. The way Utah's offense was in 2024, one of the worst in the country, and now what it is in 2025, one of the best in the country, that's what Shane Beamer needs. Like, you make no mistake about it, Shane Beamer does not have the luxury of getting an offensive coordinator and waiting 2 years to figure it out. You got to get it right immediately in this offseason. Jason Beck has shown you that ability. The run game, like, that's what all the South Carolina fans are banging the table for. You look at least in my opinion, one of the fatal flaws really with South Carolina's offense in general is in this conference, you got to run the football, man. Because if you can't run the football and you have to drop back and throw the football 40 plus times against all the different defensive fronts you'll see in this conference, it is very, very hard to be good on offense. Jason Beck scheming up the run game, not much better. Got a lot of thoughts on that. And then finally, it's a quarterback-friendly college offense. And that might have been the biggest problem with Mike Shula. Maybe it was a little too complicated. Maybe it was a little bit too much on everybody's plate. We want an offensive coordinator that can come in, make the quarterback's job easy, and let the quarterback thrive. I think Jason Beck can do that. We'll talk about the concerns as well before we get into it. As always, to the South Carolina fans, appreciate you guys. We said it on Sunday. I'll say it again. It is going to be a very busy offseason, regardless of what happens. If South Carolina decides to move on from Shane Beamer, then we got a whole heck of a lot more to talk about this program. If it's just an offensive coordinator hire, look, Shane Beamer knows he's coaching for his job in 2026. You are going to see last year at this time, South Carolina was not as aggressive as they probably should have been pursuing difference makers in the portal. I don't think Shane Beamer is going to make that same mistake because I think he knows he's got to get it right in 2026. So I think you're going to see a lot of changes from a personnel standpoint as well. We're going to have a lot to talk about. And as always, man, this fan base continues to show a ton of love to the boys. It was so fun talking about this team in the off season. Not as much fun talking about this team over the last couple of weeks and months, but I can't thank you guys enough for rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Hey, much more importantly, I've had some South Carolina fans reach out via email, Twitter, DM. Please let it fly. Like, how are we feeling about Jason Beck? I'm going to do my best in the next 10 minutes to sell everybody on the Jason Beck vision. Without further ado, number one, I think it goes a long way in answering the quarterback question that we might have. And that is, Well, what's going to happen with Lenore Sellers? Look, if there's an offensive coordinator hire to make that would help Lenore Sellers stay at South Carolina in 2026, if that's the direction South Carolina wants to go, well, gosh darn it, Jason Beck makes a ton of sense, right? I mean, Lenore Sellers committed to Jason Beck back at Virginia. And then when Jason Beck went to Syracuse, Lenore Sellers committed to Syracuse, eventually flipping to South Carolina. There's a really strong relationship between Lenore Sellers and Jason Beck. You bring Jason Beck in, the chances of Lenore Sellers staying at South Carolina in 2026 seem to be really damn high. And I still think that is, I know Lenore's has not been great, but I still recognize the immense talent that he has. And if you can build an offense that Lenore's can thrive in, you got a guy that can win you so many football games in the SEC next year. I still think Lenore Sellers, I guess what it comes down to is I don't know. I don't know if you can upgrade from Lenore Sellers. You could go, and there'll be plenty of quarterbacks that I think will be good quarterbacks in the portal. I don't know if they'll be better than Lenore Sellers. Jason Beck can go a long way in keeping Lenore Sellers at South Carolina because of that relationship they had when Lenore Sellers was coming out of high school. And if Lenore Sellers decides to leave, you got a quarterback that followed him from New Mexico to Utah and Devin Dampier, who I don't think is going to be an NFL guy like Lenore Sellers is going to be. But Devin Dampier knows how to run this offense, man. And that's been made very, very clear over the last couple of months of the 2025 season. Answers your quarterback question, I think, pretty strongly. Number two, the immediate turnaround. This might be one of the most important things to talk about, is the reason why I love Gus Malzahn so much. Like, why was Gus Malzahn the immediate front runner for me? Like, he came to Florida State, and Florida State was putrid last year. I mean, it was the worst offense in the country, and I don't think it was particularly close. Very similar situation to where South Carolina finds themselves. Gus Malzahn in an offseason created an offense at Florida State that could really score. Jason Beck's done the same thing. You look at the numbers, that these are some crazy numbers. Last year in 2024, Utah's offense 329 yards per game, 116th in the country. This year, 479 yards per game. That's top 12 in the country. They went from being one of the worst to one of the best overnight. And then you look at points per game. Last year, 23.6 points per game. That was 102nd in the country. This year, 38.9 points per game. That is number 6 in the country. I mean, he has taken this Utah offense from the absolute basement in 2024 and made them one of the best offenses in the country in 2025. That is the kind of hire that Shane Beamer needs to make. You need a guy that can come in and in one offseason revolutionize this thing. Jason Beck just showed you he could do that at Utah. Elite run game. This is huge, right? When you look at having success in the SEC, it does not matter how good your quarterback play. Well, okay, that's that's not right. You need good quarterback play. We're seeing a lot of what we think are good quarterbacks struggle in this conference because their offenses can't run the football. Lenore Sellers is certainly an example. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU is certainly an example. And Arch Manning at Texas is certainly an example. And then you look at the quarterbacks who are putting together some of the best seasons in this conference. Hey, Marcel Reed. Like, not many people had Marcel Reed as a top 10 quarterback in this conference, top 5 quarterback in this conference. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. I think a large part of that is they're able to run the football. When you look at having success in the SEC, if you are a one-dimensional passing attack, you better be damn good. I mean, Alabama's really the only team that's getting away with it, and they even had troubles against Oklahoma because of their lack of ability to run the football. What I guess I'm trying to say, and I apologize, I'm not sure if I was super clear the last 30 seconds. If you can't run the football, that means you have to drop back and throw the football a lot. Not a recipe for success in the SEC. Go look at the defensive fronts you're going to see every single Saturday. If you're dropping back and throwing the football 40 plus times, it is hard to hold up in pass protection against the defensive fronts you see every single week. You have to have a good run game. Jason Beck, You could argue it's a little too one-dimensional to the run game. Now, here's what I like about Jason Beck's offense is although they run the football 60% of offensive snaps, that's 12th in the country, you could argue it's a one-dimensional offense. They run it in so many different ways. Look, if you're going to run the football as much as Utah does, you have to be creative in how you run it. You see outside zone, you see inside zone, you see power concepts, you see design quarterback runs, you see some speed options, you see jet sweeps. You go turn on the film for Utah and say they are running the football in extremely creative ways, in a lot of different ways. So even though teams know, hey, we got to stop the run, it's hard to stop the run when you don't know where the ball's going. And I think that's credit to Jason Beck and how diverse and multidimensional he has designed that Utah run game. It's quarterback friendly. I mean, even they're not super explosive throwing the football. In fact, Jason Beck's never ran offenses that are super explosive throwing the football. But I think a decent part of that is he's not had great throwers at the quarterback position. As good as I think Devin Dampier is, there's a reason why Devin Dampier is not going to be an NFL draft pick. And he does what he can. And this is another thing. You talk about what we're looking for in an offensive coordinator. Give me a play caller that's going to look at his roster and say, all right, I'm going to mold my offense and I'm going to mold my playbook around the skill sets my team has. It's clearly running the football, and they do a really good job. If you give him Lenore Sellers, who's immensely better at throwing the football than Devin Dampier, maybe you see him throw the football a little bit more, but regardless, move in the pocket, we're using play action. We're making the quarterback's life as easy as possible. That's what you see with Jason Beck. There's one big concern. Like if you had one pushback on Jason Beck's candidacy to be offensive coordinator at South Carolina, it is that Utah has built this program along the offensive line. I mean, they got two tackles that are going to be top 50 picks in the NFL draft, I think. It's an elite offensive line, which is certainly helping him run the football the way he's running it. Is South Carolina going to be able to replicate that in the SEC? You know, given the personnel that South Carolina has, can Jason Beck come to South Carolina and have all the same success running the football that he did at Utah with a South Carolina offensive line that we're not sure how good it's going to be in 2026? If you go get Jason Beck, you need to allocate serious resources to making this offensive line good enough to do what Jason Beck wants to do. If you want to run the football, you got to get guys that can move bodies off the line of scrimmage. That's my only concern is if you go get Jason Beck who wants to run the football, are we good enough up front to run the football the way Jason Beck wants to run it? He makes a lot of sense. And we'll see if this is a name that Shane Beamer decides to go out and pursue. I'll say this again. There's so many good hires to go out and make. Whether it's Gus, whether it's Cade Bell, whether it's Jason Beck, a lot of good candidates. There are going to be a lot of turmoil in the sport, right? And I think Shane Beamer ideally can capitalize and go get a guy who we think's really, really good. You have to get this right, or else, again, we're talking about a coaching change next year. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Busy next couple of weeks and months coming up. We'll have a lot to talk about. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.